Well, here we are back for another video for the GURPS Curious. I think this is probably the last in this series. These videos are a little too clickbaity, perhaps, for my liking. They've brought in an awful lot of extra views, I guess. I guess that's always good, but I kind of prefer and have gotten used to the anonymity of being a nobody on YouTube, and that's just how we like it. It seems mission accomplished. Low production value and boring nerd droning on about GURPS is keeping me low profile. So let's get back to that. But I'm just gonna go over today one more comparison, perhaps just a basic overview. GURPS leveling, GURPS leveling versus D&D leveling. This is something that is close to my heart, perhaps, because I seem to play. So I've been diagnosing my gaming style more in my older age, now that I'm in my 40s. I'm considering and reflecting on why on earth have I played these ridiculous games for so many decades, and I think it for me comes down to the progression. I like seeing the characters grow and acquiring abilities, not necessarily min-maxing, but I like to see the growth of the characters. And GURPS does it. It has the sweet spot, the best method for my tastes. I'm gonna pull out. Here's a little character sheet. Here's an example character we were running for a while. This guy's name was Jeffrey Stump, and this poor fellow, he died by a giant's club. He took a single shot and died. As you can see here, this is my custom character sheet. It's just slightly changed from the ones out of the book. You can download this from my download page if you want it. But I love how we typically, so GURPS, you can play it. You can give out character points, which are experience points in this. You use character points to buy your attributes, your skills, your traits, advantages, disadvantages, give you points. And we typically hand out character points at the end of every session. Now, that's the old school way to do D&D as well. And we usually allow, I do in all my games, allow character improvement between sessions, even, because it's usually such a small amount of improvement that's going on that it's kind of realistic. For instance, you get 2 to maybe 5 character points in a big session, usually 2 or 3 character points per session, and a character point will buy you a skill. You buy you 1 point in a skill, so you no longer have to default. So in GURPS, if I try to use a pistol, for instance, that's a defaults to dexterity skill. If you don't have the pistol skill, you can just use your natural dexterity, but you suffer a -5 to do so. -4, I think it is actually. Dexterity -4. So if you can sink 1 character point to acquire the skill, just at basic level, pistol 1 rank, you no longer suffer that -4 to your dexterity. So the first barrier to entry for skills, like as you're learning skills, is usually well worth the 1 point. After that, it gets more costly to improve, which is fairly realistic in my view. But it's really nice to, at the end of that night, you know, we've been struggling all night. I've been trying to pick locks for some reason. I'm trying to get past some locked doors, and nobody has a skill, and I've been just failing all night. End of the session, I get a character point. Okay, I'm sinking it in lock picks. It seems to fit the narrative, you know. The poor loser's been trying it all night and probably doing a lot of failing. So now he's gotten some experience in that, and that can show by the character point expenditure. The other beauty is it's so versatile, the character point buy system, that we have experimented with playing similar to the Chaosium method. I've not played that, but I've seen a lot of it played online, and every time you fail a skill, or I guess you fail a few times, you can up that skill. So we have played and had fun with the idea where we don't actually give out many character points. We just Every time you fail a skill, so we'll say I fail pickpockets, I put a tick beside that, and every time I fail it 5 times, I can put a character point into it. We've been experimenting with that in different settings at different speeds of progression too. Got to find the sweet spot for your setting, I suppose. But GURPS does allow for that kind of progression as well, which is super fun. Another big one is base attribute improvement. So in GURPS, all your skills are based off of the underlying attribute: strength, dexterity, IQ, or health. And if you can manage to put one of those up, all the attached skills go up. Dexterity and IQ being the lion's share base for skills. It costs you 20 points to put those up one level, which is a really sweet spot, I find, for improvement. It's always the tough decision. You've waited, you've accumulated up over 5 sessions or so, you've got 10 points. You can put up your strength by 1 point, or you can wait till you hit the 20 character points accumulated to up your dexterity or your IQ. Strength and health are cheaper to put up. They only cost you 10. IQ and dexterity, though, are very useful attributes, and they double the cost. I love the tough decisions that forces on the players, and rightfully so. If you're legitimately improving your intelligence or your hand-eye coordination, it should take a while. But I like the idea that is capable, that is possible. Like you can spend all your character points right out of the gate, just dumping all your points into, say, IQ, end up with a real brain. I like that customizability. And I touched on it in the previous video, but there are no classes in GURPS, and it is really great, especially with the randos style, the Randos to Heroes series I've been doing. I start with randomly generated losers. They're not great characters, but as they accumulate their character points, I start growing each character in the party. I run 4 at a time. They tend to just slide into their niches, which is really fun to see. So everybody kind of just goes off in their own way. One guy starts putting all his points into combat stuff, another guy into the roguish type skills, etc. But there's nothing stopping you from coming back and crisscrossing into another niche, or combining them for that matter. In one game I was running for my friend, he had his fighter. His fighter was a halfling, so he wasn't very strong to begin with. But he over a long time of play, he brought his strength up. He was a tough little halfling, and he also brought up his wilderness stuff, and with that, his first aid. So he was doing some nice. He was basically the party healer, and the party ranger, and the party tank. Now, if he had have not spread his points so thin, he would have obviously been better at any one of those things. But we had nobody to fill those roles, so it was interesting to see him take those on, and successfully so as well. Further on the subject of customizing characters, the power building section for advantages in GURPS is nothing like anything else I've ever seen. I've not played heroes or mutants and masterminds, so I can't speak to those in comparison. I've heard they're very good, but I've been quite happy with the GURPS powers method of building special abilities. Now, we haven't gotten into this with our fantasy game since we're playing pretty old school dungeon delving hexcrawl type stuff. There's no Eldritch Blast type stuff going on, really, or whatever, special abilities, arcane abilities people might want. But the ability is there to shoot flames or shoot lightning out of your hand, your sword, at will, or to take fatigue cost, perhaps. Maybe that's how you want to build it. We've certainly made use of it for supers games, super strength, building out shape-shifting abilities or turn to flame type physical structure altering stuff. That's all there for the high fantasy lovers, and it works well. It takes a lot of points, and the beauty is, again, you can start with nothing and start saving up your character points and developing those abilities as time goes. They can get costly, but they're not generally that bad to get into. Like you can get the innate attack ability, so you can attack through out of your hands, shoot something out of your hands or your body. I think it starts at 5 or 10 points to start shooting flames out of your hands, for instance. And then of course you can customize that with modifiers like, is it a ranged attack? Is it a melee attack? Is it an area effect? Does it cost you fatigue? Does it cost you hit points to use? Is there just a set limit of uses per day, perhaps? Does it come with a pact or some disadvantage attached to it? Maybe a vow. For instance, the clerics, they only have access to their magic through a vow to never use piercing or slashing weapons, right? The blunt weapon thing. It's all possible here. But anyways, that's a quick overview. GURPS leveling. I love it. I think you all might too. Give it a try. Have some fun with it. Make some videos so I can watch y'all play. Not enough GURPS content out there. Until next time, roll on.